Hello, 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 my friends. Thank you for joining me. And for joining us for this presentation of WriteHiveCon 2025. I'm Nicholas W. Fuller. I'm a booktuber and the author of the just released science fantasy story Shattered. It's a novella, but I am here to have the pleasure of introducing Multimind to speak to us about audiobooks. Of course, this presentation, how to transform your books into audiobook. Multimind resides in her hometown, Baltimore City, Maryland. She writes books that are fairly black, usually queer, and very much embedded in the world of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. Her newest book is a YA dark fantasy horror called Harlequin, currently in the process of audiobook recording. And her newest short story is included in the new anthology Yamoja Tears, an anthology about water, bodies, and bodies of water. Multimind, thank you for talking to us about audiobooks today. I'm excited to learn more.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. All right. Without further ado, I guess I get started. Okay. So pretty much the presentation is how to transform your books into audiobooks, which is a very, very good option for a lot of writers, especially because it's a brand new, well, not a brand new format. It's been around since recorded language has been around. But it opens you up to brand new readers and also is much more accessible, especially for readers that may not necessarily be able to read a book due to braille, due to being blind or having hard of seeing. So audiobooks is a great opportunity, not only that, but also whenever folks go, oh, I don't have the time to read a book, you can always say, well, there's an audiobook, and they will actually be more acceptable to it. So without further ado, how to transform your books into audiobooks. Now, these are my books in audio so far. I started with In Search of Amika, which is a novelette, and all my works so far have been in audio in some form. From my first accepted short story, which is Null Void, but that one was created through Nightlight podcast back in 2019. And my current works are right now is the Harley Quinn, which is currently being recorded, and also Stalwart, which is in Yemoja Tears, which is also in the slate to be recorded after the Harley Quinn. But as you can see, I've done quite a bit with my own works. So before we begin, no AI and why? And I'm pretty certain because with the advent of AI and others who have probably seen the other panel that I'm on, such as how to avoid AI in your cover commissions, pretty much it is very much a big deal to stress to not have AI for your audiobooks for a litany of reasons. So no AI and why. Like books and art, AI often steal voices from actors, which is unfair and unethical. Pretty much they are just like with books, just like with art. They're not asking the actors, they're not asking the creators, hey, can I use this? They're just up and taking it. And also what I have learned from when they take the voices from actors, they will smash them up into a variety of different voices so that a person can't really identify who is who and what is what. And that's not okay because an actor should be able to protect their likeness. It's not really fair that someone can make you say or do anything that you would not necessarily want to say or want to do. And so AI voices also lack human emotional range. One thing that is a great thing for audiobooks, but also for things like radio drama and things of that nature, there's human range. AI does not know how to go through the breadth of the human emotional range, where a human narrator would know perfectly because, well, they're humans. But it's just that with AI voices, because I remember being offered by Google Audiobooks, hey, you want to use synthetic voices? And I just went, what is this? And I tried it out and I just didn't like it. Maybe for a textbook, but even then, not so much. It doesn't get words right, and it's just a big headache, honestly. It's just that it would be so much easier to just get a human narrator and say, hey, recite this. Oh, and by the way, that word is pronounced such and such a way, versus an AI voice can't really figure it out. They're not popular among readers. I have not really seen any readers in the majority that are just happy to have AI voices. They are, if anything, it's the opposite. As soon as they find out that the voice is AI, they immediately want their money back. So that's not great when you want to actually make audiobooks that people will keep. Instead, they just simply are not popular among readers. They're bad for the environment and for local health. It takes a lot of resources to make AI infrastructure. And not only that, but also they pump out a lot of very noxious gases that poisons a lot of the local communities, such as the communities that are in Tennessee. And that's not great. Many companies that were on track to meet their uh, green environments and green eco measures blew through every single last one of them just about in a very short amount of time just by adopting AI. It's just not very wise. And not only that, but also, even if you're not caring about the environment, the local health, and the fact that readers really don't want this, you don't own the audio. The AI company does. And if you think they don't, read those very long and spindling terms and conditions. They are written the way they are for the reasons that they are. And it's because if they want the voice to say certain things or not say certain things, they can control it to do that. So if you have a voice that talks about you're writing a crime mystery and all of a sudden it feels like not saying words like murder, death, and kill for whatever reason, it can do that. And not only that, but also it can switch up your story because it's the audio. It's not under control of you, it's under the control of the company. And if the company folds up, they can take the voice down, which can take your audio right along with them. And not only that, but also, last but not least, it invites doubt into your own writing and creative legitimacy because they're thinking, well, if you're using synthetic voices, what else might be synthetic? You do not want folks to think that you don't write your stories or anything of that nature. Even writers and artists who have never touched AI a day in their lives have gotten those type of accusations, and it has decimated their skill set. Not their skill set, but it has decimated their reputation. And it's a very, very hard hill to climb from, even if you're not involved with it. So just don't bother with it. Basically, respect actors, respect listeners, and respect your own career. Just hire human narrators. Yes, sometimes narrators can be pretty pricey, but there are things such as creativity grants and the fact that actors will work with you. They're people too. So, part one, before getting a narrator. Before getting a narrator, your book should be done. Audiobooks need their own ISBN. You need to make an audition packet. You need to decide who will do what, and you need to make a sensible contract. So, to go deeper into things, a book should be done. Audio should be the very, very, very last step in the publishing process after the book is done and finished in both print and ebook. If it is not in finished form in either of those forms, do not bother looking for audio. It's one thing when your cover's not available because it's still in the process of being worked on. That's fine, but the rest of the book has to be completely finished. Do not actively look for a narrator before completing a book. They're not interested in feelers, they're interested in work. So if you do not have a book, if you're going, oh, it's just an idea, but I would love it if so-and-so performed it, just write the book first and then figure out who's going to play what later. Because once you have to go into the process of getting a narrator, that involves another person, and you do not want to waste somebody's time. Audiobooks need their own ISBN. Please note, an ASIN is not an ISBN. ASIN stands for Amazon Standard Identification Number. That means it's proprietary. It's for Amazon only. So you cannot use it for anything outside of Amazon whatsoever. It's useless. ISBN stands for International Standards Book Number, which bookstores, libraries, etc., anywhere books of any format, print, ebook, audio, braille, so on and so forth, are sold, borrowed, or rented, use this. And they use it worldwide. So you do not want to go with Amazon, especially because if you put all your eggs in one basket, you may wonder why you hear a little squish sound in the distance. A lot of writers who are on KU, which is Kindle Unlimited, have discovered that one big time. You just want to go wide. Also, so before getting a narrator, make an audition packet. If you have anything raunchy, gory, or advice in a major way, say so. Actors really want to know because that way they can determine if they want to go for the project or if they don't. Please don't trick people into projects they don't want to do. Have female and male character voices as well as narration text. You want to be able to learn how they can handle everybody. So your girl characters, your boy characters, non-binary characters, whatever have you in between, as well as narration text. You want to see if they're very dry eyes, clear eyes, a dry and droll delivery, or a very up and personable delivery. No NDAs, because those are a sign of a paranoid newbie. You're going to see that one quite a few times in this presentation. It's very important. No human is trying to steal your work. Robots are. So you don't have to worry about someone sneaking off with your work. An actor worth their salt is not going to do that. That and also you're most likely not coming out with the next new thing. So you're probably safe in that way too. But keep the audition packet, keep it short, around 8 to 10 pages, double spaced. I sometimes break this one myself, but when I do break it, I tell the actor they can take whatever snippets of the packet that they would like to recite and which characters they really need to focus on. But definitely just keep it as short as possible because actors have a lot of auditions to do, and that's how they get their jobs. They audition a lot. So the shorter the packet, the better it is. But definitely make sure that the packet is cohesive. Include the main character's bare minimum. And also to estimate the runtime of your book, you can use this formula, which is 1.5 minutes, so 1.5 minutes, time story pages, not book pages. So the things that have your front matter, like your copyright page, your title page, whatever have you, those are book pages, as I like to call them, not story pages, which is the pages that the story itself resides on. When you find out what the pages that the story itself resides on, then you just do that times 1.5 minutes, and that should give you a guesstimate of how long the audiobook should be or might be. And it's close to accurate. So you also need to figure out who's going to do what, such as the narrator, who is somebody who will be reciting your work, the audio engineer, who is someone who will edit and master, meaning get it ready for distribution of your audiobook, proofing, who is someone who will listen to the work and ensure that the spoken word matches the written book, and casting, someone who will cast the narrator for your work. For me and everything I do, I'm mainly the engineer, the proofer, and the caster. For Harlequin, I did use a casting director this time around, so it's a pretty new experience for me, but I would rather usually cast myself. Also, writing a sensible contract. My contracts are actually modified, they're custom as a good contract should be. And it's basically came from the boilerplate contract of ACX Independent Contractor Agreement. So ACX has to do with Audible. So you just simply use that as a boilerplate. Boilerplate meaning is just the bare basic minimums. And then you read through it and you change up what you feel is necessary for you. So keep it short and reasonable, 10 pages or less. You don't want the contract to be longer than your story. That's not okay. No Latin or dense jargon. So nothing to do with the fida mea obligo or ipsum des. They do not need to, because it's too confusing. The name of the game is that a regular person, should be able to understand. Some actors do not have representation or lawyers, and they themselves should still be able to understand what is written in the contract. And not only that, but also usually whenever there's a lot of dense jargon in Latin and things of that nature, there's usually some pretty sneaky details that the person is trying to hide. Don't do that. Again, no NDAs. It's the sign of a paranoid newbie, which means an actor is not going to want to work with you because they're wondering what else you're going to become paranoid about. Have an easy dissolution clause. If the actor wants to leave, let them. Do not try to barricade them or trap them into a contract. That's not okay. Check with NAVA and SAG-AFTRA for preferred clauses, such as the no AI training clause. Those are becoming very popular in contracts, as in actors will ask you to put that in there, and if they don't see it, they won't sign it. And that's perfectly well and good, okay for them. And also, most of all, take your time writing the contract and ask for help from writer guilds when in doubt. So there's SAG-AFTRA, there's SFWA, HWA. There's also ALLY, which is the Alliance for Independent Writers. Basically, there is help out there. The best great contract info resource I've seen so far, though, is Writer Beware on writerbeware.blog. They're great, especially about how to identify what are good contract terms, what are bad contract terms. I think they even had a blog series about that alone. They're amazing, and I super recommend reading them. And also, remember, contracts are not for when things are great. Contracts are for when things fall apart. So keep that in mind. And also a little glossary here. SAG-AFTRA stands for the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. They have a long, long history, and they did recently have a strike within the past couple of years against both film and video games. You do not want to be on their naughty list. They are very dead serious about protecting their actors. And they are the union for actors, including audiobook narrators. And also they are called the Union for short. NAVA is the National Association of Voice Actors. They're a nonprofit organization for helping and advocating for voice actors. They are also really, really going steam forward as it pertains to protecting actors from AI. So I really, really recommend giving those two a look. And now part 2, getting a narrator. So don't start at the top. It's awesome if you saw Sinners, but that doesn't mean you need to get Michael B. Jordan. So, closed auditions or open auditions, places to find narrators, screen for the most fitting narrators, demos are a must. Contact narrators or their agents and discuss contract and story. So let's begin. Don't start at the top. One, it's very expensive. Michael B. Jordan costs a lot more now than he did 10 years ago. And good for him too. They're not very accessible. They are not, you usually have to go on things like IMDb Pro and usually have to go through agents and more agents and more agents and some more agents before you get to the actor themselves. I had learned this when I was getting actors that I've seen on TV and film. And not all A-listers are good actors, and not all good actors are A-listers. You genuinely have zero idea if you're talking to the next Idris Elba or Michelle Yeoh if you don't give them a role. And this is actually the one thing I do tell all my narrators, that if I don't give you an opportunity, I can't find out, and neither can anybody else, how good you are at a role. And I want to be able to see. So, open or closed auditions. So, closed auditions, you select the actors to audition. Open auditions, anyone can audition. I personally prefer closed auditions. It's just easier for me. Closed or half closed auditions are best when hiring BIPOC. BIPOC stands for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, and queer, including QBIPOC, which means queer, Black, Indigenous, People of Color actors. Because mainly you do not want any disruptions. Unfortunately, I have noticed when I would do half open or open auditions, I would get the people I do not want. If I am asking for someone to be of Chicano background and can parse Spanish, then that's what I am asking for. I don't want anything else. And if I want some Black narrator or Black woman narrator, that's what I want, nothing else. Places to find narrators. These are the places where I usually go to find my narrators. So there is AAVADB, which is the African American Voice Actor Database, and that is aavadb.com. And that's where I went to first find my narrators for In Search of Amika, Dreamer, Kinetics, and I went back there for Harley Quinn as well. And there's also VOC Takeover, formerly known as PGM, standing for People of Global Majority, and their website is voctakeover.com. That's where I found the narrator for my book, The Glass Man, because I needed a male narrator that time. And I also looked there as well for the Harley Quinn. Uh, AAVADB is for Black actors, I'm sorry, Black actors and narrators. And VOC is in general, so people of color in general, as well as queer actors, as well as the intersection, so queer actors of color. Research before contact. Screen your narrators to reduce your list. You're going to get a lot of people. You're not going to want to interview every single last one of them. So screen them to reduce your list. Listen to the demos. And demos are short for demonstrations. And if they have no demos, no contact, unless it's to inquire about demos. Because why hire a narrator whose voice you've never heard before? Make sure to listen to all the demos listed because they might have an accent or skill like singing in character that will wow you. Because you want to make sure if you are going to write books to be able to use the same actor again. That's what I tend to do. When I have a narrator, I tend to use them again and again and again and again until they leave audiobooks altogether. And check social media and keep the disqualification list short, and check your unconscious biases so not to lock out historically marginalized groups. For me, I do not really, it doesn't take much for me to go, I was going to go with this person, but not. And it's a super, super short list. And I'm usually going through social media before I contact. So that way I'm not putting someone through the ringer just because they just didn't match what I wanted. Contacting actors or their agents. Actors want jobs, so they'll have some form of contact or notation of representation on their site and sometimes social media. So sometimes they'll say represented by so and such and such. Or they will have on their website a contact me page or things of that nature. If you can't find it, the last ditch effort is to comment politely on their socials that you want them for a project, but you couldn't find contact information. Sometimes they do reply. When sending a cold email, mention early that you have a paid project and what it is about. Make sure to include any mentions of any explicit subjects like sex and gore. They do not like being tricked into doing content they don't want. And actors should be able to have the full ability to be informed and to know whether they want to reject or accept a job. And also make sure to include your website and socials so they can look at your work as well. Just like you're researching them, they should be able to research you. And a glossary, the PFH, which is per finished hour, which is the hourly rate of a completed audiobook. So you might wind up with the raw length of maybe 5 hours, but if it gets trimmed down to 4 hours and a half, the PFH would be for that 4 hours and a half, not 5. $250 PFH is the lowest amount set by SAG-AFTRA. Now, speaking of SAG-AFTRA, there's a difference between union and non-union. Not all actors work with SAG-AFTRA, and those actors are considered non-union. Some actors will work under 250 PFH. They're usually non-union. However, pay fairly because it's very important, especially so those non-union actors can become union. And that means that it can join SAG-AFTRA, in other words. Because I forgot what the exact requirements were to join SAG-AFTRA, but they're pretty up there. And also use discretion. Do not use a non-union actor to do a 50,000 word book for $150 total, for example. It's one thing to use them for a short story and to still pay fairly. It's another when you're just simply trying to figure out how you can get more for less. That's not fair. Creativity grants do exist. They're not easy to get, but they do exist. The Harley Quinn and The Glass Man are both books that are funded completely by creativity grants provided by my state. So, discussing story and contract. If the narrator is interested, PDF is the preferred format of your work for them to read. They want to be able to know if they can decide if they even want to take a chance on the work. And this is doubly so if you tend to write things such as erotica or horror. They want to know how deep things get. Be cordial, not pushy. Respect no's. Even if you're thinking, oh, I am so dead set to get this actor, if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. Respect it. Again, no NDAs. Signs of a paranoid newbie. It shows up that often a lot. You're not Marvel Comics of now or of the 90s. But definitely, yeah. Narrators sometimes ask for changes in the contracts. They want to make sure that the contract fits them perfectly. That can be a lot of back and forth that can be very exhausting, especially when an agent is involved. And so just try to keep nice, try to keep cordial. They just want to make sure that they're doing what's best for themselves and their agent what's best for their clients. If you want your story recited in a certain way, say so. That way the narrator will know, oh, this is how you can do it, and if their skill set can match up with it. And so, part 3, having a narrator. Don't be a tyrant, have decorum. Video call meetings are great. Sound assistance is important. 3 to 4 takes or less. And if a narrator wants to leave, let them. So don't be a tyrant, have decorum. Unfortunately, I have heard quite a bit from narrators about authors who just would be very much like Eveline from The Wiz and very demanding and could make Gordon Ramsay look like a kitten. Don't do that. Life happens. Be flexible. If you're working with actors of marginalized backgrounds you're not familiar with, remember, they're not walking life lessons. Educate yourself on your own time, not theirs. They're there to work and not there to teach you. And also learn to take corrections with grace. Do not go into a drama llama Shakespearean expose of your own. They're not interested in hearing it. They just want to work, and they're more than happy to leave. And also be succinct in what you want. Make sure that the actor knows exactly what you want and describe it the best way you can. If you have to use song, if you have to use film, if you have to use whatever have you, go for it. The actor doesn't mind. They want to be able to do the job the best that they can. Also, communicate timely and give the narrator time to do the work. They are not going to be able to crank out an audiobook in a day. That's not exactly how it works. Usually it takes about roughly a month minimum to make an audiobook. I usually tend to give my narrators 3 to 4 months, but mainly because of the content of the book. I write horror, so I do not want them to have to rush through it. Sound assistance is important. It helps your narrator know how to pronounce words, names, and characters in your books, as well as what accents to use if needed. It should be in the form of a PDF guide and can include snippets of audio to use as reference. So if you have a character who sounds similar to a different character, then it's okay to use that character as oh, well, they might sound like this person or they might sound like that. Video call meetings are great. Character voices and motivations can be worked on and ironed out in real time. And that is a wonderful thing because it saves the actor a bunch of headache, it saves you a bunch of time, and prevents a whole lot of back and forth that can happen with emails. Because you don't want to say, oh, that's not accurate. And they're going, well, I thought you said it was. It can be done in a video call so fast. But have a few of them, 3 or less, preferably less, per take. So that way they can focus on the work and you can focus on writing a new book. 3 to 4 takes or less. The first take should be the entire book. The rest should be pickups or edits. Pickups are corrected snippets of audio so the narrator knows what to fix. Video calls and sound assistance sheets should reduce the numbers of takes. So you should not have to need a bunch of different takes when you've already had a video call to already iron things out. Don't be a Kubrick. Be efficient and succinct in what you want. Stanley Kubrick, as far as I have known, is one of the directors who is noteworthy for having the most takes in a film, over 100 takes, and I think it was for The Shining, which was written by Stephen King, and he hated it as well. So those 100 plus takes didn't even go anywhere. That's not a good sign of a meticulous director. He's not being meticulous, he's being ridiculous. You should be able to convey what you need I think the only other take in film so far that had so many takes was Spider-Man when it was performed by Tobey Maguire for the lunch tray scene. That one actually made sense because he actually did have to do a very tricky acrobatic thing by having everything on the lunch tray balance on the lunch tray. And actually, the makers of Spider-Man are super, super proud to talk about that, as well as Tobey Maguire himself. But Kubrick, he just wanted to harass his actress, and that's not okay. So yeah, be efficient and be succinct in what you want. You do not need 100 plus takes because even the actor will wonder if you know what you're doing. If the narrator wants to leave, let them. Sometimes things just don't work out. And have a plain, direct, simple letter to give them to say that the contract is now void and they're released from the project. And no anti-disparagement clauses. Do not have any clauses in your contracts that says a person cannot talk bad about you. Honestly, one is because usually places that have those in there are already pretty toxic. Two, yeah, it's not great to have people say mean things about you, but guess what? They're going to say it anyways. You might as well let them be able to say it openly. Actors are not going to are not as likely to burn their bridges. But also, if you treated people terribly, then maybe you should hear what they have to say. This is a sample audiobook contract cancellation letter, and this is what I've used in the past for narrators. So it has a date. It says, "Dear narrator, this letter is to inform you of the cancellation of the contract entered on such and such date pursuant to relevant section clause of the contract." For me, it would be section 5A, I believe, of the audio narrator contract. The contract signed shall now be declared to be null and void in line with the terms and conditions set forth. As no recording was done, no payment shall be made as per the contract. Thank you again for your appreciated participation on this project. If there was recording, for my contract, there is a 15-minute sample. So if I rejected with the first 15 minutes, then again, don't have to accept it, don't have to pay. And I just simply write that the sample was just unsatisfactory. But basically, keep it cordial. You're free to be sad. You can be sad, mad, and everything at your screen. Just don't do it through your keyboard. So, part 4, edits, proofing, and mastering. So, edit your RAWs with a DAW of your choice. Learn to edit audiobooks on your own. Proof your audiobook yourself. Master the audio yourself. Help is available, but it will cost you. Pickups/edits are important, and metadata is super important, yet easy to do. So, glossary. RAWs are short for raw file. It is the completely unedited version of your audio. DAWs, it means Digital Audio Workstation, a program that lets you work on audio such as Audacity, Audition, Acoustica, and Pro Tools. I don't know why they all like A's. They just do. Proofing, listening to the audio to ensure it matches the printed book. Mastering, creating the original finalized audio work that all audio versions will copy from in distribution. Distro is short for distribution, the system that sends out your audiobook to all potential retailers. So, DAWs of choice, not a full list. Audacity, which is free. There is also Adobe Edition, which is paid with a monthly license. There is Acon Digital Acoustica 7, which is a paid one-time license. So once you pay it once, you're done for the rest of your life. I have Acoustica. I super, super like them. And there's Pro Tools, which is paid and has a monthly license. Learn how to edit audiobooks yourself. You do not need a powerful computer, and it saves you money in the long run. An audiobook will be edited the exact way you want to, and is not too difficult a skill to learn from, and there's plenty of resources online. My laptop, I think, is about a mid-range gaming laptop. So you don't necessarily need it to be strong and powerful. Just be able to run whatever DAW you will be picking. And not only that, but also while some of them cost money, some of them don't, it will save you money in the long run if you edit the audiobook yourself. And not only that, but it's not that difficult a skill to learn. It's not the same as, for example, making music where things are layered. It's just a person talking. So you usually have to know basics such as how to mute, how to splice, and things like that. Proof it yourself. No one knows the story better than you. So it's best that you proof it yourself. And plus, it's your story. You should probably see what's in it. There might be mistakes that someone else will miss, but it will be glaringly obvious to you. I don't know how many times I have proofed the work where I will listen to the audio, look at the book, and then notice there is an error in the book that I need to fix. It, I don't know how, but somehow a typo will always slip through. Usually whatever book that comes after audiobook is the cleanest version there is. Master the audio yourself. For one, always own your masters. I have a background in the music industry. This is a big deal. You always own your masters. You never let someone else own them. Because if they own the masters, they can do whatever they want with it. And it's up to them on whether they can let you have it. And that's not a good situation to be in. Findaway Voices, which is what I use for distribution, has an excellent guide for mastering audiobooks called the Audiobook Mastering Guide. I strongly recommend giving it a look. It is very informative, and they even have a small video of the companions in case the pictures and the writing is somehow not enough. It's very, very informative. That's what I've used for every single audiobook I've made so far with my works, and they've all worked wonderfully. And also, you can ask for help, but it will cost you. If you hire others for help, you will need to see a portfolio first, especially with the advent of AI. You do not want somebody who's going to be there to basically scam you. Be suspicious of anyone who demands you to be completely hands off for the process. No one knows your book better than you. And while some engineers are very much, they don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen, you still should be able to look at your book, proof your book, hear snippets of your book, things of that nature, in opposed to set it and forget it. Don't do that. Have a contract ironed out. They are work for hire. And try to find affordable audio engineers at your local college. And remember, be cordial. They're learning their skill set, so that winds up giving them a portfolio to start with, and it gives you an engineer to work with. So that's pretty much a win-win, as long as you are not a monster about it. Pickups/edits. It's recommended to save pickups in Notepad or Notepad++, which is a free program for both Mac and Windows, for straightforward saving or on an actual physical notepad. You will be taking a lot of notes. Just know that much. You will have to act out some snippets on a voice recorder if you want them delivered a certain way. I have had to do this a lot. I am always embarrassed when I have to, and it always reminds me of why I have a narrator. But if you want it done, the line done a certain way or to be emoted a certain way, you got to do it. Don't be afraid to praise. Actors actually have a pretty tough job and they get a lot of criticism all the time. When they're doing something right, tell them. And that way it also lets them zero in and say, okay, this is what I did right, so I'm gonna keep doing more of that. It's much easier. So I prefer it. That and also actors work for you and stay with you a lot longer. Timestamps do not have to be precise, just in a general neighborhood of the error itself. You don't have to get it right down to the nanosecond, just in that general neighborhood because the actor will be able to go forwards and backwards until they find it. Now, pickup format for a typed correction, it needs to be in hour, minutes, and second timestamps of recording, as well as the edit notes. So I show an example of hour 1, minute 38, 18 seconds. Should be run, hurry, not run quickly. Sometimes actors will misspeak. It happens. And that's when you point that out. Sound corrections, which is the file name format. So that would be the character name and the line in reference. So the example of that would be Jang. You're joking, right? And that would be what they would hear on the audio. And sound corrections are always referenced in the type list, which has a timestamp and a written note with sample below. That's what I use. And if you're using one with a longer passage, just simply use an ellipses, which is a ... and between the first few words and the last few words. So that way they'll know which section you're talking about. Metadata is super important. Metadata is the embedded information associated with the audio file, such as the chapter name, genre, narrator name, and author's name. Necessary so that the digital device, such as your computer, your mobile device, whatever, can correctly identify and play in order the audiobook along with the correct cover art and chapter information. Metadata can be done in file, but the free program MP3 tag allows files to be worked on in bulk from cover art to the publication year. And metadata information usually are for songs and albums. So here are some of the audiobook equivalents. Audiobook is equivalent to a music album. Chapter title is equivalent to a song title. Narrator and author is equivalent to artists. Cover art is equivalent to album art. When you're using MP3 tag, what to include when you're filling out the metadata. And MP3 tag is available for Windows as well as Macs. I have a Windows computer, so that's why a lot of my stuff is Windows centric. Same thing with Acoustica. It's also available for Macs, but it's just as fine for Windows. So, title of the book, which would be the album if it were music. Artist, the format should be narrator, comma, narr, and a semicolon, and author. I have it done this way because the narrator is the one reciting it. I'm the one who wrote it. So it's important that both of us are there. Cover art, the chapter/file listing number so that it can go in order. Genre, which would be audiobook, and the publication company or person, and the publication year. So then the publication year would be the year the audiobook is published, not necessarily the print book itself, because remember, the audiobook has its own ISBN, so it has its own life to live. Test the file by playing through VLC, which is a free program on both Windows and Mac, so it means video line. And it is to test its cohesiveness and to see if all the details are there. If it looks like how it should look with a regular album or that you have on your phone or on your computer, that's great. Then test it on a separate device for the same reason. Pulsar is a great free no ads MP3 player app that's available on both Android and Apple devices. I use Pulsar. So basically what you're looking for is to make sure your audiobook looks as professional and seamless as possible. It should not have any weirdness or any missing data. It should look just like any other audio device and any other audio file. Part 5, uploading to distribute. Make sure the files are in a finished and mastered state. Have a 5-minute sample, but nothing explicit. Cover art to specification of distro services, and upload metadata to Storygraph, Goodreads, etc. Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, for those first 3, pretty much as I just mentioned, just make sure everything is nice, fun and done. There's nothing else to work on. Everything is nice and streamed through. A 5-minute sample should be a dynamic part of your book, but don't have anything explicit. It will not go up. Cover art, I'm with Findaway Voices, so they have their own specified cover arts. Go by whatever your distro service is asking for. So if you want to go for Storygraph and Goodreads, when it comes to uploading metadata, including the runtime, it allows readers to track, review, rate, and interact with your audiobook. The apps will also recommend your audiobook to new readers via their suggestion methods. Best to upload on a computer, it's a much more straightforward process. For Storygraph, you can just simply click new edition, put in the information, and usually somebody from Storygraph will come and interact with you, especially if you notify that you are the author. With Goodreads, you just simply upload the information yourself, and eventually a librarian will get around to it. They're pretty quick, but not the super quickest. So, part 6, pricing and royalties. Pricing. Don't gouge the price. Keep it affordable. One thing I have read and seen and heard from my writer groups that I'm part of, but also the reader groups I'm part of, audiobooks are expensive. And that's not great sometimes. Have a pricing system and max out at $25. My audiobook prices are novel, so anything that's 40,000 words or more is at $15.99. My novella is at is at $10.99. My novelette is at $8.99. Basically, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't pricing too high and not too low. I write YA. A YA should be able to buy my book. And not only that, but it's good to remember that if the price is too high, you won't make any royalties. Price like a reader, not like a publisher. Think about the prices you've paid for books or when you went, yeah, I don't want to pay for that. Such as, for example, if an ebook is $30, you probably didn't shell out money for that until it wound up on sale. So again, price like a reader, not like a publisher, because it's the readers who are going to be buying it. And especially with times like now, people want more bang for their buck, so make sure to do so. Royalties. Now, depending on the distro, you will get paid on their schedule. So sometimes they'll pay monthly, for others it's quarterly. I'm with Findaway Voices. It originally was monthly, then they got bought by Spotify, and now it's quarterly. It is not great. You're notified at the start of the month when someone buys or streams something of yours within the past month. And you're notified again 3 months later when you're paid. Price smart, not greedily. Because again, if it's too expensive, no one's going to buy it and no one's going to give you royalties. Also, 1 penny per stream, please. Just as at Spotify, all streaming services should just stick with 1 penny as opposed to slicing it in so many different ways until it's ribbons. Art is important and streaming should pay fairly. No one is coming to hear a CEO sing or tell a tale. So it's the artist that should be rewarded and paid. And part 7, to sum it all up, audiobooks take care, work, and cooperation to be made. They're a completely viable format that reaches brand new readers. It's kind of actually ableist to say audiobooks is not reading. It is. It's just a different format of it. And also doing parts of it yourself helps in the long run and in the short run. And it also develops a very intense and very integral idea of what your audiobook is. And that way you can't sit here and go, well, I didn't like this part. Someone should change it. You can just change it yourself. So thank you all for listening, and where to find me is at multimindpublishing.com, where there are actually long excerpts of all my audiobooks on my site on the front page. And I'm available on Instagram and on Threads as Multimind Publishing. Thank you all for listening, and I really do hope that this was a helpful presentation. All right.